Welcome to Auntie Rose Narrates. Before today's story of betrayal and self-discovery, please subscribe and hit like to help these stories be heard. Drop your city or country in the comments. It always warms my heart. Now let's begin. When my husband handed me the divorce papers, he did not look at my face. He stared at the table like the wood had something important to say. I remember smiling, not because I was strong, but because I was tired of crying. After 32 years of marriage, I had learned how to swallow pain quietly. My name is Ruth Johnson. I am an African woman who gave her whole life to one home, one man, one family. I cooked the meals, folded the clothes, prayed over the children while they slept. I believed love meant staying, even when staying hurt. That morning, the house felt too quiet. No radio, no footsteps, just the sound of paper sliding across the table. My husband, Michael Johnson, cleared his throat and said, "Ruth, I think this is best for everyone." Best for everyone. Those words stayed with me like a bruise that never showed on the skin. He told me he was leaving. He told me the house was not mine anymore. He told me the accounts were already handled. I did not shout. I did not beg. I only asked one soft question. What about me? Michael sighed like I was asking for too much. He said the assets were his now. The house, the savings, the retirement fund we built together, dollar by dollar. He said it all belonged to him. Later, I learned the truth. Every single thing he took, he handed over to another woman. His mistress, a woman half my age, wearing my jewelry, living in my home, sleeping in the bed where I whispered my prayers by sunset. I was packing my life into 2 old suitcases, clothes worn thin at the elbows, photos curled at the edges, memories that felt heavier than furniture. All I had left in my purse was a debit card, old, scratched, a card my father had given me years ago before he passed away. He told me, "Ruth, keep this. For a day you might need strength." I never used it. I believed the balance was 0. Just plastic and memories. The next morning, rain followed me to the bank. Cold, steady, quiet. I stood in line feeling small, like the world had already moved on without me. I only wanted to check the card, then close the account for good. When I handed the card to the bank manager, he froze. His face went pale. His hand started to shake. He looked at the screen, then at me, then back again. Then he stood up fast and shouted, "Ma'am, please. You need to look at this right now." In that moment, my heart stopped, because I knew my life was about to change forever. Before I tell you what happened inside that bank, I need to take you back. Back to the years when my life still felt full and certain. Back to the days when I believed love was enough to protect a woman. What happened to me did not begin with divorce papers. It began long before that. In small, quiet moments, I ignored Dot. I met Michael Johnson when I was 24 years old. I had just moved to Ohio from Georgia, carrying 1 suitcase and a head full of hope. I worked as a receptionist at a small medical office. Michael came in one afternoon for paperwork, wearing a neat shirt and a gentle smile. He spoke softly, like a man who never rushed his words. He asked me out for coffee 2 weeks later. I remember how nervous I felt, smoothing my skirt again and again. He listened when I spoke, really listened. When I told him about my dreams, he nodded like they mattered. That was all I needed back then. Michael was steady, not loud, not dramatic. He promised safety, not excitement. And at that age, safety felt like love. So when he asked me to marry him after 1 year, I said yes, without fear. We married in a small church with white walls and wooden benches. My father walked me down the aisle. His hands were rough from years of factory work, but his grip was gentle. He whispered, "Ruth, never forget who you are." I did not understand then how important those words would become. Marriage changed me slowly and quietly. I stopped thinking about what I wanted and focused on what we needed. Michael worked in finance and climbed his way up year by year. I stayed home when our first child was born. We had 2 children, Daniel and Lisa. I gave them everything I had. Warm meals, clean clothes, and homework help at the kitchen table. I was always there when they needed comfort. Michael became distant over time. Not cruel, just absent. He came home late and spoke less. When I asked how his day was, he said, "Fine," and turned on the television. I told myself all marriages went quiet after a while. Money became his world. Accounts, statements, and plans I was never invited to discuss. Whenever I asked questions, he said, "Don't worry, Ruth, I handle it." I trusted him, and that trust became my weakness. I never checked balances. I never asked for passwords. I believed partnership meant letting go. I believed love meant faith. My father used to disagree. He visited us every Sunday after church. He would sit at the table, sip his tea, and watch Michael carefully. Once, when Michael stepped outside to take a call, my father leaned close. "Ruth," he said softly, "a woman should always know where her ground is." I laughed and told him not to worry. Michael was my husband, my protector, my future. My father shook his head but said nothing more. A few weeks later, he handed me a small envelope. Inside was a debit card and a folded piece of paper. His eyes were serious in a way I had never seen before. "This account is not for spending," he said. "This is for survival." I tried to refuse it, but he insisted. He told me the balance was private and that I should never mention it to anyone. I placed that card in my wallet and forgot about it. Life moved on quickly. School runs, doctor visits, and church events filled my days. Time passed faster than I realized. When my father passed away, I felt like my anchor was gone. Michael comforted me in public, but at home he was silent. I cried alone at night while he slept. Grief taught me how lonely marriage could feel. As time passed, Michael's phone became a wall between us. He guarded it closely. He smiled at messages he did not share. When I asked who he was texting, he said it was work. I wanted to believe him. I always chose peace over truth. That choice would cost me everything. Our children grew up and moved away. The house became quiet again. I suggested trips, hobbies, and counseling. Michael refused them all and said he needed space. One evening, I noticed unfamiliar perfume on his jacket. Sweet and young. I said nothing. Silence had become my language. Months later, the truth came out without warning. A woman answered Michael's phone while he was in the shower. Her voice was calm, confident, and unafraid. She asked, "Is he not home yet?" I did not scream. I thanked her and hung up. That night, I slept on the couch and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. Michael admitted everything the next morning. He said he had been unhappy for years. He said he deserved joy. He said the other woman understood him better. He did not apologize. He spoke like he was explaining the weather. Something unavoidable. Something natural. Soon after, lawyers appeared. Documents were signed. Assets were moved quietly while I was still cooking his meals. By the time I understood what was happening, it was already done. He left me with nothing but clothes and memories. No house, no savings, no security. Just that old debit card and a heart full of confusion. When I finally walked into that bank, I believed I was closing the last door of my life. I believed I was preparing myself for struggle and survival. I did not know my father had prepared something else entirely. The manager's trembling hands were not fear of me. They were fear of what I was about to learn. And that is where everything truly changed. The bank manager asked me to sit down, but my legs would not move right away. I stood there holding the edge of the counter, feeling like the floor beneath me was not solid anymore. People behind me were shifting, clearing their throats, growing impatient, but none of that mattered. All I could hear was the quiet buzzing inside my own ears. Finally, I sat. The chair felt too small, like it was not meant for someone carrying this much weight inside. The manager closed his computer screen slowly, then opened it again, like he hoped the numbers would change if he blinked enough times. He looked at me with something I had not seen from a stranger in a long time: respect and fear. "Mrs. Johnson," he said softly, "how long have you had this account?" I thought for a moment. Time felt strange in that room. "My father gave me the card many years ago," I said. "I never used it. I thought it was empty." He swallowed hard. "It is not empty." That was all he said. Nothing more. Just those 3 words. My heart began to beat faster, not with hope, but with worry. I had learned not to expect good news. Good things had a way of turning into pain. He turned the screen toward me, but before I could look, he pulled it back. "Before I show you," he said, "I need to confirm something." He asked for my identification. My hands shook as I reached into my purse. The same purse I had carried for years. Now holding everything I owned. As he checked my name, my mind drifted back to Michael. I wondered if he was sitting comfortably somewhere, maybe in a cafe with her, laughing. I wondered if he thought of me at all, or if I had already faded into the past like an old photograph. The manager cleared his throat. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, "this account has been active for decades." I frowned. "Active?" I asked. "No one ever touched it." He nodded. "There were deposits." "Regular ones?" "Over many years." My chest tightened. "From who?" He hesitated. "Your father?" And later, "a trust." The word trust landed heavy. I did not understand it fully, but I felt something shift inside me. Memories of my father came rushing back. His quiet eyes, his careful words, the way he watched Michael without speaking. I asked the manager to continue. He told me my father had started the account long before he gave me the card. He said my father added to it whenever he could. Small amounts at first, then larger ones as time went on. He told me my father had also set conditions. Conditions that protected the account from anyone else. No spouse, the manager said gently. No shared access. No legal claim. I felt tears rise, not from sadness, but from something close to regret. My father had known. Somewhere deep inside, he had known what I refused to see. But the story did not end there. The manager explained that years after my father passed away, the account changed. Not in ownership, but in growth, investments, returns, carefully managed, untouched by daily life. Your father arranged it so that the account would mature over time, he said. It was designed for later. Later, that word echoed in my mind. Later always felt so far away when I was younger. I never thought I would need saving. I believed love would carry me through everything. The manager finally turned the screen toward me again. This time, he did not pull it back. I leaned forward slowly, afraid my breath alone might break something. I saw the number, but my mind refused to accept it. I blinked, then blinked again. I asked him if it was correct. Yes, ma'am, he said. That is the current balance. My hands went cold. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I had never seen so many zeros attached to my name. Not even close. It felt unreal, like I was looking at someone else's life. I thought of the nights I cried alone, the meals I skipped to stretch grocery money, the years I trusted Michael with everything while I held nothing in my own hands. All that time, safety had been sitting quietly in the background, waiting, but instead of joy, fear crept in. Real fear. I realized something important in that moment. Michael had taken everything he thought I had, and if he ever found out about this, he would not stay quiet. The manager seemed to sense my worry. He assured me the account was secure, protected by layers of legal structure my father had arranged. Even in divorce, it could not be touched. Even in marriage, it had never belonged to anyone but me. I thanked him, though my voice sounded far away. He asked if I wanted to withdraw anything. I shook my head. I was not ready to touch it yet. I needed time to understand what this meant. When I walked out of the bank, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean, like the world had just taken a deep breath. I stood there on the sidewalk, holding my purse close to my chest, feeling like a stranger in my own body. That night, I did not sleep. I sat on the edge of the small bed in the room I had rented and stared at the wall. My life had split into two parts. The woman I was before that bank visit, and the woman I was becoming. Over the next few days, memories replayed themselves with new meaning. Every warning I ignored, every moment my father tried to protect me quietly. I felt shame for my blindness, but also gratitude for his love. Michael called me 3 days later. His voice was polite, distant. He asked if I had settled in, if I needed anything. The kindness in his tone felt false now, like a performance. "I'm fine," I said. There was a pause. "Good," he replied. "I just wanted to make sure you were managing." Managing. That word almost made me laugh. I realized he believed I was struggling. That belief gave him comfort. It made him feel justified. After that call, something inside me hardened, not into anger, but into clarity. I understood the imbalance of our marriage for the first time. I had given without guarding myself. He had taken without guilt. Letters from lawyers began arriving soon after. He wanted full closure, final signatures, no delays. I read each one carefully now, slowly, with attention. The woman whose skimmed documents was gone. I hired my own attorney for the first time in my life. Sitting in that office felt strange, empowering. I listened as she explained my rights, not to his assets, but to my dignity. Michael was surprised when I pushed back on timelines. Would I ask questions? Would I refuse to rush? He accused me of being difficult. I remained calm. The tension grew quietly. Emails became colder, phone calls shorter. He sensed something had changed, even if he did not know what. And that unsettled him. One evening, I ran into Lisa, my daughter, at a cafe. She looked tired, torn between loyalty and truth. She asked how I was doing. I told her I was finding my footing. She hesitated, then said, "Dad says you're having a hard time." I smiled gently. "Your father doesn't know everything." That was the moment I realized something else. My children had only seen one version of me. The quiet one, the patient one, the woman who never demanded space. They did not know my strength, yet thought the rising conflict was not loud. There were no arguments or scenes. It lived in silence, in paperwork, in knowing glances. It lived in the understanding that power had shifted, even if only on the inside. Michael began asking questions he never asked before. Whether the first had found work, whether I was okay financially, whether I needed help. Each question carried suspicion. I kept my answers simple, calm, honest, but not revealing. I learned the value of privacy late in life, but I learned it well. At night, I spoke to my father my thoughts. I thanked him. I apologized. I promised him I would never abandon myself again. The rising conflict was not just with Michael. It was within me. Letting go of the woman who believed endurance was love. Becoming someone who understood that safety matters. And as the days passed, I felt the turning point approaching. Like a storm building far away, quiet, patient, certain. The turning point did not arrive with shouting or slammed doors. It came quietly, like most truths do. It arrived on an ordinary afternoon when I realized I was no longer afraid of Michael Johnson. That realization settled into my chest gently, but once it did, it changed the way I breathed. For weeks after the bank visit, I lived carefully, not in fear, but in awareness. I paid attention to everything now, every word in an email, every pause in a phone call, every look people gave me when they thought I was not watching. I had spent most of my life moving softly so others would feel comfortable. Now I move softly because I was choosing to. I found a small apartment near the edge of town. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, a narrow kitchen, windows that let in afternoon light. The landlord did not ask many questions. He only asked if I planned to stay a while. I told him yes, and for the first time in a long time, I meant it. I bought a used table and 2 chairs. I did not need more. I wanted space to think, space to breathe. At night, I cooked simple meals and ate alone, listening to the sound of my fork against the plate. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt honest. Michael continued to contact me, always politely, always with distance. He asked about paperwork, about timelines, about when everything would be final. His urgency told me more than his words ever did. He wanted closure because he believed closure meant control. One afternoon, my lawyer called and asked me to come in. Her voice was calm but firm. When I arrived, she closed the door and sat across from me with a thick folder on her desk. She asked me if I was sitting comfortably. I nodded, though I felt tension rising in my shoulders. She explained that Michael's legal team had made a mistake, a careless one. In their rush to move assets and finalize the divorce, they had overlooked something important, something that gave me leverage. She slid a document toward me and asked me to read it slowly. It detailed how certain marital decisions had been made without my consent, how assets had been transferred in ways that assumed my ignorance, how trust had been mistaken for weakness. For years, I believed being quiet meant being powerless. That afternoon, I learned the truth. Silence had protected me long enough for others to expose themselves. My lawyer told me I had choices, not to take revenge, not to cause harm, but to demand fairness, to refuse erasure. To be seen, I went home that night and cried, not from sadness, from release. I cried for the woman I used to be, the one who stayed quiet to keep peace. I held her gently in my thoughts and told her she did the best she could with what she knew. The next turning point came through my children. Daniel called first. His voice was careful, like he was walking on thin ice. He asked if we could talk, really talk. I agreed. We met at a park where he used to play as a boy. He sat on the bench across from me, hands folded, eyes tired. He told me his father had been speaking poorly of me, saying I was bitter, uncooperative, difficult. I listened without interrupting. Then I told him the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I told him I had trusted his father completely. I told him I had been left with nothing. I told him I was rebuilding quietly. Daniel's face changed as he listened. Something softened. He said he never realized how much I had carried alone. He apologized, not for his father, but for not asking sooner. That conversation shifted something deep inside me. I realized I did not need to defend myself loudly. Truth had a way of traveling on its own when given space. Lisa came next. She arrived at my apartment unexpectedly one evening. She looked around slowly, taking in the simplicity of my life now. She hugged me tightly, longer than usual. She whispered, "I'm proud of you." That night, we sat at my small table and talked for hours. About marriage, about fear, about how easy it is for women to disappear inside roles. She cried when she realized how much I had given up without complaint. Their understanding did not erase the past, but it healed something important. I was no longer invisible to the people who mattered most. Michael noticed the shift soon after. He asked to meet in person, just to talk. I agreed, knowing this conversation would be different from all the others. We met in a quiet cafe, the same kind of place he once took me when we were young. He looked older now, tired, less certain. He spoke first, as he always did. He said he did not recognize me anymore. He said I seemed distant, guarded. He asked if I was angry. I took a moment before answering. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm awake." That unsettled him. He leaned back, studying me like I was a stranger. For the first time, he was the one unsure of where the ground was. He asked how I was surviving. I told him I was managing. He pressed further, asking how I could afford my new place. I met his eyes calmly and said, "I prepared." He smiled thinly and said I had never been good with money. That was when I felt the final shift inside me. The last piece of fear leaving my body. "I was good at trusting," I said. "There's a difference." He did not respond. He looked down at his coffee, then back at me. Something like worry flickered across his face. He realized he no longer knew me, and that frightened him. The legal turning point followed soon after. My lawyer sent formal responses, requested revisions, slowed the process. Michael's team pushed back, but the ground beneath them was no longer firm. They realized I was not desperate, not rushing, not confused. And that changed everything. Weeks passed. Negotiations shifted. The tone softened. What was once dismissive became cautious, respectful. They offered concessions, not out of kindness, but out of recognition. During this time, I began to change in quieter ways too. I took long walks in the morning. I started writing letters to myself. I learned how to sit with discomfort without running from it. I stopped apologizing when I spoke. I stopped explaining myself when no explanation was needed. I learned that strength did not require hardness. It required honesty. The true turning point came the day the revised settlement arrived. I sat alone at my table and opened the envelope slowly. My hands were steady. My heart was calm. The terms were fair, not generous, not punishing. Just fair. A recognition of years given, of partnership ignored, of presence dismissed. I signed my name carefully, not as the woman I had been, but as the woman I had become. When I mailed the papers back, I felt no triumph, only peace. I realized then that the turning point was never about money or justice alone. It was about reclaiming myself. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in years. No dreams, no worry, just rest. The next morning, sunlight filled my small apartment. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching the world move forward. And for the first time, I felt like I was moving with it, not behind it. The turning point had passed, and ahead of me was something new. Not revenge, not bitterness, but clarity. And with clarity came the beginning of true healing. After the bank, after the legal settlements, after Michael had realized that I was no longer a woman who could be manipulated, I finally felt the space to breathe fully. It was as if a weight I had carried for decades, one made of fear, doubt, and silent endurance, had lifted. Leaving me standing in the sunlight for the first time in years, I spent mornings walking through the small park near my apartment. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of grass and earth. I watched children play, couples walk hand in hand, and elderly friends sitting together on benches. Each sight reminded me that life was still moving forward, whether I was ready or not. And I realized I could choose how to move with it. I could no longer be frozen in the past. I had to live for myself, not for the approval of others or the memory of betrayal. My relationship with my children deepened in those weeks. Daniel and Lisa came over often. They cooked with me, laughed with me, and listened to the small stories I shared about their childhoods. They began to understand me, not just as their mother, but as a woman who had given everything she could and survived. I saw the pride in their eyes, a pride that had not been there before. It was humbling. It was healing. It reminded me that love does not always need to be spoken loudly. Sometimes it grows quietly in understanding and presence. I also began reconnecting with friends I had drifted away from during the years I poured myself into my family. I visited old neighbors, shared tea with women from church, and slowly rebuilt a community around me. Their laughter and stories reminded me that life outside my marriage had always been waiting. It was not lost. I had only forgotten to claim it. These small moments of connection carried me forward, teaching me that resilience is not only surviving alone, but also allowing yourself to lean on others when you need it. In the legal aftermath, Michael attempted to maintain contact. He sent emails and called occasionally, testing the waters as if he could measure my reactions. But I had learned to respond calmly, with neither fear nor anger. I answered with simplicity and truth, never allowing his words to unsettle me. Over time, his messages stopped. I realized then that he had always needed me to be vulnerable for him to feel in control. Once I reclaimed my strength, he could no longer anchor himself to my life. The old debit card my father had given me became more than a symbol of hidden financial security. It became a symbol of trust, foresight, and love. I kept it carefully, tucked in a special box along with letters he had written to me over the years. I read them occasionally, letting his words remind me that even in his absence, he had prepared me for moments I could never have imagined. Each note, each small instruction became a guidepost, teaching me that the legacy of love is not always visible. Sometimes it is quietly waiting for you to discover it when you are ready. With the settlement behind me, I allowed myself to dream again. Simple dreams at first, trips to places I had always wanted to see, classes to learn something new, and afternoons spent reading books that had sat on my shelves untouched. Slowly, I rebuilt my life, piece by piece, not with grand gestures, but with intentional choices. Each small decision, buying fresh flowers, cooking meals I enjoyed, walking in the park, became an act of self-love. I realized that life is not only about survival, it is about creating joy where you can, even after loss. One afternoon, while sorting old photographs, I came across a picture of Michael and me from early in our marriage. We were young, happy, unaware of the trials that awaited us. I held the photo carefully, studying our faces. Instead of pain or resentment, I felt a quiet compassion. That woman in the photo had done the best she could with what she knew. And now, I was the woman who had survived, who had reclaimed her power, and who had learned to see the truth without fear. I began volunteering at a small community center. I helped with children, offered guidance to women who felt lost in their marriages, and shared quiet advice when asked. Each interaction reminded me that pain can be transformed into purpose. Sharing my experience in gentle and thoughtful ways allowed me to help others find their own strength. It was a reminder that healing is not just personal, it ripples outward when we allow it to. The resolution of my journey was also deeply internal. For decades, I had carried anger and bitterness quietly, letting them simmer beneath the surface. But now I let them go. Not because I forgave Michael in the way the world expects forgiveness, but because I forgave myself for allowing others to define my worth. I forgave the years I had wasted on fear. I forgave the quiet endurance that had become routine. And in that forgiveness, I discovered freedom. Financially, the account my father had prepared became a tool for independence. I used it thoughtfully, not extravagantly. I invested in my comfort and security, and in ways that would allow me to continue supporting myself without reliance on anyone else. The money was not about luxury, it was about dignity. It reminded me that foresight, careful planning, And quiet preparation can become lifelines when life takes unexpected turns. Also spent time confronting old emotions that I had tucked away. Late nights were spent journaling, writing letters I would never send, and reflecting on choices I had made. I confronted the sadness of betrayal, the loneliness of years spent unseen, and the quiet frustration of a life I had built for others. Each reflection, each tear, each word written was a step toward complete emotional clarity. I realized that my life was mine to reclaim, and no one else had the right to define it. One evening, Daniel and Lisa brought their children to my apartment. The place was small, but it was filled with laughter. Their curiosity, their questions, their energy brought life into the corners of my home. I watched them play and felt a deep, tender joy. These were the moments I had waited for. Not grand celebrations, not recognition from those who had wronged me, but simple, honest happiness. I thought about Michael less and less. His role in my life became a quiet memory rather than a living presence. I no longer carried the tension of what he thought or did. I was free to live in the present, to cherish the people who truly mattered, and to honor my own needs. The turning point had become the foundation for this new life. And now, the resolution was taking shape in every choice I made. Every smile I owe myself, every quiet moment of reflection. I also began to embrace new opportunities. A friend invited me to join a local book club. I started attending cultural events I had once avoided. I even considered learning to paint, a dream I had abandoned when life became focused on duty. Each new experience, each small adventure, became a reaffirmation that life can be rebuilt with patience and love for oneself. Even in solitude, I no longer felt lonely. I learned to enjoy my own company, to find comfort in the rhythm of my days, in the sound of rain against the window, in the warmth of a cup of tea. I discovered that being alone does not mean being empty. It means having the space to grow, to heal, and to become the person you were always meant to be. By the time the legal matters were fully concluded, I had transformed. I was no longer the woman who waited for permission to exist. I was Ruth Johnson, fully aware of her worth, her strength, and her right to joy. I have learned that betrayal, while painful, can be a catalyst for growth. That the world may take much from us, but it can never take the lessons and love that shape our hearts. In this resolution, I found peace. Not fleeting, not dependent on anyone else, but deep and enduring. I found purpose in my family, in my community, and in my own life. And I discovered a quiet happiness that does not require approval, wealth, or validation. It simply exists because I chose to embrace it. The final lesson I carried from these years was simple but profound. Life is unpredictable. People may fail us. Circumstances may leave us empty-handed. But resilience, wisdom, and quiet courage can rebuild even the most fractured of lives. The bank account, the legal settlements, and even Michael's betrayal became tools to teach me how to live with intention, dignity, and hope. In the evenings, I sit by my window and watch the world continue its rhythm. The sunlight falls gently on the walls of my apartment. I sip my tea. I smile quietly at the small joys around me. And I know that every moment of pain, every tear shed, and every quiet endurance led me here to a life that is mine, fully and completely. I am no longer a woman defined by the choices of others. I am defined by my own courage, my own love, and my own resilience. And in that definition, I find the truest resolution of all. After years of living in fear, doubt, and betrayal, I finally feel the calm rhythm of my own heartbeat, steady and unshaken. I wake up each morning with gratitude. Gratitude for small things, a warm cup of tea, sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor, the sound of birds outside my window. These simple moments remind me that life, even after pain, continues to offer beauty. I have learned to savor them fully, without guilt, without rushing, without expectation. My children remain a central part of my life. Daniel and Lisa visit often, bringing their laughter and their families into my home. I watch their children grow and see reflections of myself in them. I guide them gently, share lessons of patience, kindness, and resilience. I am no longer just their mother. I am a living example of endurance, strength, and the power of quiet courage. I still think of Michael sometimes, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He was a chapter in my life, one that taught me lessons I could not have learned otherwise. I do not dwell on what was lost, but on what I gained: self-respect, independence, and a deeper understanding of what it means to love and protect oneself. I find joy in ordinary activities. I visit the park, walk slowly along quiet streets, and sometimes sit with a notebook, writing letters to myself or reflecting on memories. These moments are mine. They are sacred. They are proof that even after betrayal and loss, life can be rebuilt with patience and care. Sometimes I speak to women in my community, sharing my story quietly, without shame or dramatics. I tell them that life may take many forms and that strength does not always roar. Sometimes strength is simply moving forward calmly with dignity and hope. Seeing their faces light up with understanding reminds me that my journey, though painful, has meaning beyond my own life. The old debit card my father left me remains in its box, a symbol of foresight and love. It reminds me that protection can come in many forms, often unseen, often quiet, and that those who love us deeply often prepare us for moments we cannot yet imagine. I keep it not for money, but for memory, for guidance, and for the reassurance that I was never truly alone. Evenings are my favorite time. I sit by the window, watch the sun dip below the horizon, and reflect on my life. I think of the years of patience, the quiet endurance, and the ultimate awakening that led me here. I smile softly, feeling a warmth that has nothing to do with the past and everything to do with the present. And in that warmth, I have found peace. Peace in knowing that I am enough, that I am worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Peace in understanding that life's hardships do not define us. How we rise from them does. And peace in realizing that the truest form of wealth is not in what others can take from us, but in the courage, resilience, and self-love we cultivate along the way. My life is no longer dictated by betrayal, fear, or silence. It is dictated by choice, reflection, and quiet joy. I have learned that happiness is not always loud, and healing is not always visible. But when it is real, it is powerful. It changes everything. So I close this chapter of my life with gratitude, calm, and hope. I have learned that even in the face of loss, abandonment, and deception, a woman can stand tall. She can reclaim her life, her voice, and her dignity. And in doing so, she discovers that the most profound story we ever live is the one in which we choose ourselves. I am Ruth Johnson. I endured. I learned. I rose. And I am whole.